Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on YouTube? Diggy546. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video if you like the video. And I won't tell if you click that bell. But let's go ahead and get into this. So the Giants have made their decision. No surprise here. He was the first candidate interviewed. He was the first candidate to get their second interview. Highly recommended by Bill Parcells. We kind of wanted to stay away from the nepotism and cronyism. But guess what? The Giants, they always lean towards that direction. But I guess Bill Parcells is a good person to listen to. Anyway, highly recommended by him. Of course, probably highly recommended by Brandon Beane. And what I think was probably the best all-around candidate, an assistant GM down there or up there in Buffalo. And he's well qualified. He's definitely well qualified. Again, Joe Schoen, 20 years of experience, assistant GM, turned the Buffalo Bills around. Right now, he's looking at Brian Flores and Brian Daboll, both of the Bryans. I think those two are his top head coaching candidates as far as that goes. They said he reached out to try to build a relationship with Brian Flores this past week. So maybe the Giants recommended Brian Flores and he's reaching out because he's going to be the Giants GM and he doesn't want to disappoint Mara. I really hope that he has an honest interest in Brian Flores and it's not just, because the Giants are interested, he has to go and interview the guy. So hopefully that works out that way. Brian Daboll, of course, is going to be his guy from Buffalo. So we'll see who he hires as far as head coaches are concerned. But I just want to go through what happened since he's gotten to Buffalo. 2016, before him and McDermott and Brandon Beane got to Buffalo, the Bills were 7-9, third place. Their roster had Tyrod Taylor. They had LaShawn McCoy there. They had Robert Woods there. That's right before Robert Woods ended up going to the Rams, and he ended up being a pretty good player for him. But pretty average roster. I think they were kind of outperforming their roster now that I look at things. But they were in third place in that AFC East division. 2017, the first year that that squad gets there. So that's the Daboll, that's McDermott, that's Brandon Beane, that is now Joe Schoen. The first year they get there, they go 9-7. Second place, they lose in the wild card. The next year, 2018, Josh Allen, I think he went 20-9 as far as his interceptions and touchdowns. 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and he ended up adding about 8 or 9 more touchdowns as far as rushing goes. They ended up finishing in third place. Underwhelming season. But the next season, they go 10-6, lost in the wild card. The next season they go 13-3, and then this season they went 11-6. So that is 3 straight, winning seasons, 3 straight seasons where he's gotten double-digit wins. His team has gotten double-digit wins. And then in 2017, their first year, they were 1 game away from a double-digit win with Tyrod Taylor, with LaShawn McCoy. So it shows how they've turned around this roster from having a journeyman at quarterback, from having LaShawn McCoy, from having all these guys. I mean, Lamar Jackson went out there and threw for a bunch of touchdowns, and something else happened, I think, the next week after that. And Vontae Davis, one of their best players, literally retired in the middle of the game, and now they are one of the best teams in the entire NFL. I know Vontae Davis wish he probably stayed there, but now I want to look at some of the better players that he's drafted. Now that I actually have this list in front of me, I'm going to just go through it. Credit to Bills Wire. I'm going to give them credit, Bills Wire of USA Today. Just looking at some of their best players that they've taken. AJ Epinesa, that's a guy who's definitely a good player in this league. He's going to continue to get better. He's still pretty young. Ed Oliver, one of the better defensive tackles in the league. Taron Johnson, solid cornerback. Gabriel Davis, solid receiver. Wyatt Teller, one of the best guards in the entire NFL. And if they would have given him a little bit more time while he was on the Bills, he probably would be, on the Bills doing his thing. But they ended up getting rid of him. He got drafted in the 5th round in 2018. Just to give some context, Gabriel Davis, who's a serious contributor, got drafted in the fourth round. Taron Johnson drafted in the fourth round. Epinesa drafted in the second round, and Ed Oliver drafted in the first round. So that's gives you a little bit of context. Deion Dawkins, a round two pick, 2017. Deion Dawkins is a very solid tackle. He just got an extension from them, I think a couple of years ago. So Deion Dawkins, second round pick, that's what you want out of a tackle that you take in the second round. A starter that ends up being probably going to be a 10-year starter for him, 8 years at least. Tremaine Edmonds, 16th overall pick, but he hit on that pick. Tremaine Edmonds is definitely one of the better linebackers in the league. And then you look at Matt Milano, a fifth round pick in 2017. He's one of the better linebackers in the league. Doesn't have any Pro Bowlers, but Milano is definitely one of the better linebackers in this league, and he was drafted in the fifth round. So this is how you build rosters here when you have players that you've drafted that are literally some of the better players in the NFL, and they're drafted in the fourth, fifth round. Tre'Davious White, first round, of course, but the end of the first round, really, I mean, no matter where you're picking, they traded back and got a future first, and they eventually used that first, I think, to get Josh Allen. But they traded back all the way to 27 and was able to get a Pro Bowl level corner. So right at the end of the first round, if you become that team where we want the Giants to be, where you're picking at the end of the first round every year, then you want to be able to get those Pro Bowl level players in the late 20s. And then, of course, they have number one Josh Allen as the number one player that they've taken. Some other players, Dane Jackson, the corner, seventh round guy, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss. Those guys are pretty average players. I'm not really going to give them too much credit for that. And then Harrison Phillips is a defensive tackle that they took in the third round that I really, really like. So those are some of the highlights. Of course, the biggest move that I think they made was getting Stephon Diggs. I think them adding Stephon Diggs to that roster, as they were able to address the offensive line, as they were able to continue to build that roster, was definitely one of the better moves they made, because that took their roster from pretty much you're an average team in the league, and then you add Stephon Diggs, and all of a sudden you're one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL. You're putting up a bunch of points. Your quarterback takes that next step, and that's really what has put Buffalo over the top, to the point to where Josh Allen is so used to moving at a high pace, putting up a bunch of points, moving the ball, pushing the ball, that even if Stephon Diggs goes out, he still is that elite quarterback who can do things because he's used to playing and being able to move the ball and scoring as many points as they do. Adam Peters, Ryan Poles were the other two finalists. I really want to give the Giants props for having that quality of a final three. Joe Ortiz wasn't in that final three, but Adam Peters is as good as it gets. Ryan Poles is as good as it gets. And we finally made what I think is a right and good decision. We cast the wide net. We narrowed it down to the guy that we wanted. Joe Schoen seems more than qualified. I just went over some picks. Now, of course, he probably didn't make the executive decision on all of these picks, but Joe Schoen was involved in the scouting and the acquisition of all of these players in some way. And he's seen Brandon Beane do it from start to finish. The Bills now have 3 straight double-digit winning seasons. They're probably going to have a fourth next year. And if this is anything, if this team is going to be anything like how he turned around the Bills, Joe Schoen may have the Giants winning double-digit games in 2023. And early as 2023, the Giants may be in a position to win double-digit games and have sustained success because we're drafting quality players in the late first round, in the second round, in the third, fourth, fifth round. So you guys let me know what you think of this hiring. I'm excited. This is pretty much everything that I wanted to happen since I heard about Joe Schoen's name, since I knew that we were interested. He was my guy from day one. Now I just need him to go out there and get Brian Daboll. If you can get Brian Daboll, you have what I believe is you have the tools to really start this rebuild and put together a franchise that has a different identity from what we've always had. Brian Flores seems like it's starting to seem like a Mara push to me. It's starting to seem like John Mara wants Brian Flores, and he's already told Shane to go get him. Now, if Shane goes out there and hires Flores, I don't think Flores is a bad coach at all, but I will start to be a little bit wary of maybe Shane seems to be like a John Mara puppet. But I'm going to keep an open mind. I'm going to trust the process that we do to go through hiring this head coach, and then how we hire the rest of our scouts and how we hire the rest of our coaches under that head coach. And I cannot wait to see how we attack this upcoming draft with 2 picks in the top 10. Are we going to trade out? Are we going to go ahead and stay put and take 2 quality offensive linemen? How will we attack the draft? How are we going to attack free agency? Who's going to get cut? How does he feel about Daniel Jones? I did see a story that said that most of the Giants GM candidates felt good about Daniel Jones and thought that he was dealt a bad hand. So is he going to try to run it back with Daniel Jones and not address that quarterback spot? Or is that all smoke? And are we going to move on from Daniel Jones? So I can't wait to see what Joe Schoen does first. Can't wait to see his opening press conference. He might be on a roster that might win the Super Bowl this year. We'll find out soon. But let me know what you think of this hire, and what do you think the first thing that he's going to do is going to be, and what do you think your favorite move that you think he'll make this offseason will be. So again, let me know what you think, people. I think we're finally about to turn the corner as Giants fans. I hope we finally are going to turn the corner. If you made it this deep into the video, come on, just hit the subscribe button. I make Giants content primarily, draft content secondarily, and during the season, I'm going to be doing a lot of reacting to pretty much most of the NFL games and everything NFL. So if you made it this deep, go ahead and join the D6 squad.